Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode. The year 2024 was a disaster for Vladimir Putin. His dream of rebuilding the Soviet Empire was already crumbling, but then something unimaginable happened. Russia itself was invaded. For the first time since World War II, a Russian leader lost Russian territory. And for the first time in history, a nuclear-armed Russia faced an invasion. To make matters worse, Putin became the first sitting president to be issued an arrest warrant by the International Criminal Court, ICC. But he had one last hope. If Trump returned to the White House, maybe, just maybe, he would offer him a reprieve, a lifeline, a way out of this war that could save his grip on power and the declining Russian economy. However, this hope did not last long. Trump's first tweet after his electoral victory sent a clear message. The Russian economy was weak, failing, and on the brink of collapse. He warned that unless Putin made a deal quickly, Russia would face heavy taxes, tariffs, and sanctions. His words, not mine. Trump presented two choices, the easy way or the hard way. In any case, Putin had to come to the negotiating table. And to drive the point home, on Inauguration Day, Trump declared to the world that Putin was destroying Russia, and whether he liked it or not, he had no choice but to negotiate. And that brings us to what happened just a few days ago. A so-called Trump peace plan leaked, thanks to the Daily Mail. Somehow, they got their hands on a plan that was never meant to be public, and it seemed strangely favorable to Russia, forcing Ukraine to accept terms it would never agree to. But let's think about it for a moment. Does this sound like the Trump we've heard about since he took office? A man who would give everything to Russia? Not at all. This means that this so-called peace plan is nothing but a Russian maneuver, another attempt to sow chaos, create fear, and pressure Western leaders into submission. And it's not just me saying this. Officials within the Trump administration, people actually involved in the negotiations, are calling it what it is: Russian disinformation. Today we're going to break it all down. Trump sees things differently, especially in foreign policy. Some people don't like it, but let me tell you, Trump being Trump, he will quickly take control. Watch. It won't be long before they all fall in line, tails between their legs, just like that. Meanwhile, Putin is looking for cracks that don't exist. He's pushing the idea that Trump and Europe are not in sync. But let's be realistic. There's one policy on which they are fully aligned: beating Russia and driving it out of Ukraine. And here's the proof. Trump has just restarted military aid to Ukraine, sending weapons directly to Kyiv. Russian losses on the rise. And that's not all. Trump has just lifted all restrictions on Ukraine's ability to strike inside Russia. Under Biden, after the election, Ukraine was allowed to hit limited targets with American weapons. But Trump, he went further. Now, Ukraine can strike anywhere inside Russia. So, what does that tell you? Trump's stance on Russia is crystal clear. And this so-called peace plan circulating, the one that gives everything to Russia on a silver platter, it's not a leaked Trump plan. It's something else. But first, let's break it down. According to the Daily Mail, the plan has 4 key points. First, Zelensky would agree to a ceasefire by April 20th, freezing Russia's gains. Second, Ukraine would be banned from joining NATO. Third, Kyiv would recognize Russian control over annexed lands. Finally, European, not American, troops would oversee a demilitarized zone. In other words, a total victory for Russia and a disaster for Ukraine. And where does this so-called Trump plan come from? The Daily Mail, the same unreliable outlet that even Wikipedia refuses to use as a source. But let's dig deeper. The Daily Mail got it from a Ukrainian site called Star. Sounds legitimate, right? Except, small problem, it's actually banned in Ukraine. Why? Because it's pro-Russian, run by a journalist who fled to Russia. This site has a long history of spreading fake news and Kremlin propaganda. And yet, the Daily Mail published it. And here's the kicker. The article that leaked this plan was published on January 26th, 2025, just a few days after Trump took office. The claim? That Trump was ready to give Russia everything it wanted. Meanwhile, in reality, Trump was saying exactly the opposite. Trump indicates he might soon talk with Putin and believes the war has lasted much longer than expected. He notes heavy losses on both sides and suggests that ending the conflict would be beneficial for Russia. Regarding Zelensky, Trump states he is open to discussions and thinks Zelensky wants a deal, but he's not sure if Putin does. He argues that the Russian economy is struggling and a deal would be in Putin's best interest. On sanctions, Trump prefers tariffs over sanctions, citing their effectiveness in keeping the US dollar strong. He references his past approach with Iran, highlighting how sanctions weaken their economy. Reports suggested that General Koch would present a Trump peace plan at the Munich conference, but Koch denied this, stating that only Trump would announce the plan when ready. On funding Ukraine, Trump questioned Zelensky's claim that Ukraine hasn't received half of the $174 billion in aid, explaining that some was spent in the U.S. on weapons before being sent to Ukraine. Regarding elections, Trump supports democratic processes even in wartime, and emphasizes that Ukraine's constitution delays elections until hostilities end. Before the Munich Security Conference, Trump's team denies they will present a peace plan, clarifying that discussions with European leaders will inform future decisions. Now, let's talk about the fury of Russian media over Trump's recent comments. They are not holding back. They claim he is not a peacemaker, not someone seeking to end conflicts, but rather a leader determined to destroy Russia. And honestly, watching their reaction is something else. Russian commentators wasted no time. One called Trump easy to understand, but brutally pragmatic, someone who doesn't care about democratic values, global rules, or freedom. According to them, it's all about making deals, no freebies. If you want weapons, you'd better pay, preferably with resources, not US dollars. Then came the opinion on Ukraine. An expert dismissed the country's entire future, mocking its elections as insignificant. He compared Ukraine's fate to that of a dying man, insisting that in the end, it doesn't matter. The message? Surrender is inevitable. And then, the nuclear rhetoric. Another commentator said, Russia had no reason to negotiate. Why stop when they're successfully advancing? Instead, they should polish their nuclear warheads until they shine like a mirror. Just so, in their final moments, the West can see its own fear reflected. The discussion then turned to history and economics. Napoleon lost due to economic collapse, they argued. And the same rules apply today. War isn't just about firepower. It's about economic strength. But here's the kicker. Despite all the war talk, they were furious about Trump's latest remarks. He wrote that he didn't want to harm Russia and even praised its sacrifices during World War II. Yet, in the same breath, he threatened heavy sanctions unless they settle now. His message was clear: make a deal or face the consequences. And that's why Russian media are losing their cool. They see Trump not as a peacemaker, but as a man ready to push Russia into a corner. Whether it's bluff or strategy, one thing is clear: his words have struck a nerve. Any commander will tell you, without a strong economy, nothing gets done. But today's challenges are different. Look at Trump. He's not acting like an American president. He's behaving like the world's boss. Sasha Sladkov put it bluntly. He's like a guy who hasn't been slapped in a long time. And honestly, what is he even doing? He starts with threats, then ultimatums. Some channels claim he'll end the war, not America's, but ours. But on what terms? Sanctions? Isolation? He won't untangle this mess. Look at Russia. Its size, its people, its unity. Who in America has that? They're too busy tearing each other apart. And in Europe, the same story. Russians, on the other hand, grow stronger under pressure. The harder it gets, the angrier they become, angry at the enemy. Yet, people repost Trump's words as if they're set in stone. But why? Talks will happen, of course. They always do. Right now, he's just trying to gain leverage. Classic Trump. Maybe our president should respond on X. Or better yet, why not a nuclear test on Novaya Zemlya? Really, what's wrong with that? Plenty of space. Although London would make a stronger statement. No, not London, that's out of the question. But why are they talking to us like this? Why this lack of respect? Earlier, I spoke with my military guys. It was an open conversation. They were just passing through. I asked, they answered. One says this, another says that. But peace? With whom? About what? They're pushing this idea that Russians are fighting Russians. It's a lie. We're fighting traitors, those who turn their backs on their homeland, their faith, and we must win. This wound cannot be left to fester. The people know it. They are united. It's a mistake to treat Trump like a clown. Dismissing him only plays into America's hands. Yes, he's flamboyant. Yes, he's a businessman. Yes, he loves the show. But America profited from World War I, World War II, and it will profit from World War III if we don't understand their game. Negotiations or not, one thing is clear: we cannot accept what Trump proposes. He only offers deals that serve him. But outright rejection, that too can be used against us. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you tomorrow.